Pooja from Pooja's Crochet, and welcome to the fourth tutorial which I am going to be sharing in as a part of the winter KAL with India Yarn Circle. And today we are talking about this twist headband. This headband has a really nice and funky look to it because of the twist. The type of stitches that we have used to make this straight pattern is the brioche stitch. Here for this I'm going to be using a very simple type of a brioche stitch. It's absolutely basic and it's very easy to understand. There are many different variations when we go into brioche. Instead of having this as vertical lines, we can have twists and we can have many different things, but we are going to be sticking only to the basic straight brioche stitch, and then if in case you want to learn further variations, we may look at going for something later. For this particular pattern which I have made earlier, I have used DK yarn, special Stylecraft DK, and I have used a 4mm knitting needle. But today I'm going to be using a more bulky yarn, and this is actually a stash from my stash, and it is Narco Sport Wool. It's much more bulkier than DK. It's a heavier worsted weight type of yarn, and I'm going to be using 4.5mm needles. You can go for 4, 5 as you wish, whatever suits you and whatever you are comfortable with. As we start with this, I will again let you know that the earlier tutorials of mine, which were the seed stitch tutorial, which was the first week, has a very basic how to cast on, how to knit and purl. For this particular pattern, we need only normal knit and purl stitches. You do not need any more armamentarium other than your needles and your thread yarn. You may just need one darning needle at the end when we are stitching the two ends together to make the twist. That we will show you as we proceed. So let me just start about right now. So as you know, the first part when we start with knitting is the casting on. Here we are going to be needing to cast on an even number of stitches. Since I'm using such a bulky yarn, I'm going to make about 12 I'm going to cast on about 12 stitches. You can make more or less to increase or decrease the width of this band as per your liking. I'm going to be sticking to 12 stitches. As you know, for the cast on, I have taken the yarn over my index finger and thumb. The shorter end of the yarn, which is the end, is on the thumb, and the longer end, which is attached to the ball, is on the index finger. I take the needle below the thread, twist it below the thumb, pick up the index finger, and I drop it. Pick up from below the thumb, the front from the one going over the index finger, and I drop it. So this, since it's quite bulky, it's going to look quite thicker, but I hope by the time you reach this pattern, you have understood how to make how to decide your thickness, and that's why I have kept again this particular pattern being quite flexible to decide how much ever you want to keep your thickness of the band. If you want to make it into a ear warmer style, which is required to be thicker, you can make it that way. If you want a smaller hairband, you can make it that way. Still, I would suggest you use a wool material which is stretchy, wool or acrylic, which is stretchy, and that's why it gives a better end product. And we're at 10 and 11 and 12. So I'm going to be sticking to this thickness for my headband for this particular tutorial. So this is our basic cast on that we've done, the long tail cast on. As I've mentioned earlier, you can check out the different other types of cast ons. Now as we turn, the initial cast on is same as we do every time. The next part of the pattern is where we make it into a brioche. We make it into a brioche stitch. So this is what you have to actually focus on to understand how the brioche stitch is formed. For the first stitch, we have to take the yarn, your working yarn, to the front of the needle. This is the end of your tail. You're taking it at the front. Now what we have to do as the first stitch is we have to slip the first stitch from the left hand needle onto the right hand needle, and at the same time make a yarn over onto the right hand needle. So there is a slip of the first stitch along with a yarn over. This is how the first stitch is formed. This is going to be coming across as a single stitch. Our next stitch, after we've taken the yarn to the back, we have to do a regular knit. So I take the needle from the front to the back, wrap the yarn around, pick up the stitch out and drop the stitch. Again we take the yarn from the back to the front because we have to take the next stitch purlwise, slip it to the other right side needle, and at the same time take a yarn over and pull the stitch through. So our first stitch goes as a yarn over with a purl, slip purl. The second is a knit stitch. Again our next one was a slip purl style along with a yarn over. Next one is again a regular knit. Again the yarn comes to the front and yarn over with a slip. Next one is a regular knit. Again the yarn comes to the front, slip along with a purl. You must make sure that you are not missing out on the purling of the stitches. The stitch that is slipped is supposed to be purlwise. If you take it knitwise, then you're going to see the difference if you do that by mistake. Always make sure that when you slip a stitch, along with that there has to be a yarn over. Again we have done a knit, yarn to the front. I have purled that, slipped that purlwise, and the knit, slip the next stitch purlwise. As you can see, I'm slipping it purlwise and taking a yarn over, and the last one I'm going to knit. This is how we have made a foundation of brioche, as in we've established the brioche pattern now. After this, it is a single row repeat all along. I will explain you how that is to be done, but I hope you've understood how we have done the knit and the slip purlwise along with a yarn over. Now I'm going to turn this over. So as we see, the first stitch again, we had a knit in the earlier row, which comes across, which looks like a purl on this row. The first stitch, as we did earlier, we have to slip this purlwise along with a yarn over. This is how we do it regularly. Our next stitch, as we see, it is a yarn over along with something that we had slipped purlwise. Now this is considered as a single brioche stitch. So we have to take both these together and knit it as if it's one. This is how it will look. The next one, again we take the yarn to the front, slip it purlwise along with a yarn over, and after that we have our next, which is a regular knit. Yarn to the front, slip it purlwise along with a yarn over, and then we knit the next stitch. Yarn again to the front. As you go along it, you will get used to the pattern of taking the yarn to the front and then taking it to the back. You may get confused with the number of stitches, but you have to make sure that you realize that the one which is slipped always takes a purl with this with the yarn over, and the next stitch always has two stitches together, which will be the it will be the yarn over with this one which is slipped, but that is always to be knitted together. As you go along making this, you will figure out how it looks. I'm going to just show you a couple more stitches. I've taken a yarn over and slip this. You may take the yarn over first or slip it first, it does not matter as long as the stitches formed together. You take the needle from front to back and knit it as usual. Again, slip with yarn over, knit as usual. As with the earlier headbands that we have made, the size is completely customizable in length. You can keep making the stitches as till when you have reached the preferred length which you want to make your headband with. You have to understand that the headband should fit snugly on the head, and for that you can make it a couple of inches smaller to your circumference of the head. For this particular piece I would make it about 21 inches, and then after that we are going to be when I make the 21-inch piece of this, I will show you exactly how to join it to make the twist, which is the most exciting part of this pattern. I hope you are enjoying making the brioche also. It is a different stitch, and I am if you have followed all the 4 stitches that we've done till now, we have done quite a variation with the seed stitch. After that we had the lace, and after that we had the cable pattern. So I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to join you back. Bye bye. So as you can see, I've now completed about 21 inches of the band, and this is the pattern that is formed, and we are left with the stitches, which I'm going to show you how to cast off. The cast off is very similar to the regular. We start with the first one with a knit, now this second stitch, which is the brioche stitch, is to be considered as one single stitch. So we take both of them together, take the yarn around and drop it off. So we've behaved like as if it's a single stitch. Now we take the first stitch, pull it over the second and drop it down. That is how we cast off regularly. Same way, we knit the next stitch, take the first stitch, pull it over the next one and drop it down. This is considered as a single stitch. Take both together, wrap the yarn around, pull it through and drop the stitch. Take the first stitch and drop it down. So this is how we go about it till the last stitch. And the next. The bind off is very similar to as it was done earlier, but the most important part in making this twist headband is what we do next, which is how to make the twist by joining it together. That is the most important part of this particular headband, apart from the brioche stitch. And this is the last stitch. Take the yarn around and drop it down. Now I'm taking about 12 inches of yarn and snipping it there. The last stitch, which is there, and now it's complete. Here I have the band. Now this is where we want to make the twist. So I lay my piece down, and as we have, like, I've just folded the 2 pieces onto half to the center. I take this and fold this to half. I take the second side and fold it to half, and then I have to insert the pieces like this. You have to hold it in this position, and this is how we have to sew them together. Now let me show it to you. First thing what we need for this is a needle to sew it together. So I'm just going to thread this needle through. As I said, this is laying it flat. We take this, fold it into half, take the other, fold it into half, and then insert it like a pocket. This is how it is. Now I take my needle and I insert it through all the sections of the headband. The first one is usually a little tricky, but after that it will be easy. This is how we have it through. We've held them in the pocket together. You have to make sure to go through all the 4 of these. This is the last stitch. I'm going to take it through, and I have created a knot, and this is what we have. We are going to insert this through inside and twist it around, and as we've twisted this around, we have our twist. We just have to snip off this excess. So after snipping these off, this is the final piece that we have, which is very similar to the earlier piece, but since I've used a much more bulkier yarn, you can see the threads, the yarn is looking much thicker, and for this I've used about 30 stitches, and for this I've used only about 12. So this is how it is, and it looks perfect when worn in any winter season as is coming now. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please do like, comment and share on this, and if any questions, please DM to India Yarn Circle or my page Pooja's Crochet. Bye bye.